Hi, welcome to another webinar on practical implementation of AI and machine learning in the real world. I'm Akash Takyar. I'm the CEO at LeewayHertz. We have been building enterprise software solutions for the last 15 years. Today, we would like to walk you through state of AI and also show you some real world use cases. We will also go through some best practices and what we have learned during these implementation. I'm joined here with my co-host, Deepak. Deepak is the CTO at LeewayHertz. Welcome, Deepak.
Hi, Akash.
Hi,
Since
Deepak.
we last did our webinar, a lot has changed fundamentally when it comes to speed of these hardwares, cost to build these enterprise solutions or fine-tune these models. A lot of new models have showed up, a lot of frameworks have showed up, which has tremendously reduced the overall time to market for these use cases, Akash.
I agree. I mean, I was I get surprised every week. There is new model. I was trying to digest the news of Llama 3 last week, and then yesterday there was a model by Snowflake Architect. And then I saw that Grok has implemented Llama 3, and which is their implementation is great. Actually, let me show you. This could be a good test to do for our audience. What the difference is, when this foundation model show up. So let's say I type here saying, write a microservice code in Node.js for a user management service. Okay, let me just ask ChatGPT to do this and take a look at this, Deepak. Now I'm going to say Grok the same thing. I'm using Llama 3 8 billion. So if you see ChatGPT is typing here, ChatGPT, while the Grok is already done. And this is like 900 token per second is the speed while ChatGPT is still trying to type it.
Right,
so
right.
I think, and this is still going on, and probably the answers are almost the same. So this is, where the interesting fact is, we're getting into a mode, and we have to look at a little bit of a history of where this is all coming from. And let me give you this big, like a picture of what has been the enabler of technology that we live in. I know that a lot of people are familiar with these terms, but I want to just correlate to them what is happening in the future. So, for example, when electricity and wires, were invented, then we got things like light bulbs. When vacuum tube, we got vacuum tube, then they are mainframe computers that happened, and transistor, resulted in having more personal computers. TCP/IP invention was the enabler for internet. And then I was thinking about it that the cloud adoption happened when there was a high-speed fiber in place.
Right.
And then the miniature of storage chip happened. That's where the iPhone and happened, and capacitive touch was one more technology that happened. And interestingly, when the transformers, that are the algorithm behind the large language model happened, then we saw ChatGPT and large language model. So one of the question I think you and I were discussing about this in the past was like, what will be the future that looks like from here? And the future could be anything. Nobody can predict that. But I think in our conversation, we picked up a few things about saying large action models and agents can change the path from here. Correct? Deepak?
Right, Akash. So it's a different perspective altogether when it comes to large action models versus large language models. But yeah, we'll talk a little bit more in depth around these concepts.
Absolutely.
Right. And this is where we would like to just talk today, like where do we stand in terms of generative AI and what's the ecosystem looks like. So let me just go from bottom to top. So bottom being the core layer when you're saying these hardware companies, they are basically uh, like doing a lot of research. They are investing very heavily on building these top chipsets. Then we have where we have NVIDIA, where we have Grok. We have just seen the difference between Grok and OpenAI. GraphCore is another one who is working towards building these hardwares. Then we have some of these companies who are utilizing these hardwares to basically launch these cloud computing machines like Google, AWS, Azure. Together.ai is doing a lot of inferencing. Uh, and Cohere is another company that is basically working towards managing these large language models. Now, using these computing powers, using these GPUs and chipsets, these are some of the large language models that have been launched, which are managed proprietary by, let's say, OpenAI. There are a lot of open source large language models also available, like Claude, Mistral, Llama. So if we go a little bit up, which is a layer, a framework layer, which interacts with these large language models. And as we rightly mentioned, agents is like one group, which are like in their initial stages. So company tools like AutoGPT, Adapt, Microsoft GenAI Studio. Then we have another category wherein RAG is another approach, which has taken a level where a lot of these use cases have been showing up using these frameworks. So LangChain, Llama Index, ZBrain.ai is another one in this specific layer that we have. Now, if we go slightly above, when it comes to consultants, so these are the consultants who understands business logic, who understands business, who understands technology, and they're trying to come up with a lot of these solutions, like where to implement generative AI. Now, if we talk about development companies, so these companies are taking in these suggested use cases, and they are trying to implement these use cases by using these frameworks and inferencing these large language models. So LeewayHertz is like one of the companies where we are very much focused on implementing use cases. So these are like some of these layers. Now, if we go slightly up, which is more of actual implementation of these enterprise use cases. So let's divide this into like two layers. One is data layer, where a lot of this enterprise specific data, proprietary data is staying. Enterprise uh, uh, tools that are there for long now, which are like Snowflake, Databricks, Splunk, Data Lake. So all these tools or solutions basically consist this data. Then we have to implement these application layers on top of data, considering enterprise security as another aspect, having guardrail into picture that talks about, let's say, compliance, that takes care of these applications to stay within context, not to hallucinate. So this is another module that is required while building application layers. Now, application layers, again, I would say, is being done at various levels. A lot of these existing SaaS applications, they are working towards building these applications. So Einstein is one of them. Jasper is also building their marketing AI tools. Now, when it comes to operational efficiency, these are the use cases where enterprises are focusing internally to improve their efficiencies. So that's where you come up with sales enablement tools, customer support. These are some of the operational efficiency specific tools. And there are some other tools that basically helps in improving the software engineering aspect itself. So Devin is one of those examples. So on a very high level, this is how I see the state of GenAI, Akash.
And I think there is we can say it with very confidence that in the last 1.5 year, the progress from at the bottom layer is matured enough. So the hardware maturity, the large language maturity, the least amount of like the hallucination problems, frameworks that we needed, the toolkits that we needed are in place. There has been I think you can easily say that the focus has been now shifting towards building applications more and more and yielding the results out of it. So I think this here represent very well what the reality is. And then there is this report by Anderson Horowitz where they also mention about that there is a big every enterprise is almost like raising their AI budget from average of $7 million to like $14 million into 2024. And one interesting thing that we have also noticed with our customers and the report also suggests is that almost like every organization when they're building use cases are using multiple model approach. So nobody is restricting themselves to being like, okay, we are committed to Anthropic or we're committed to OpenAI or anything like that. They are very model agnostic and they are using more than 3 models at an average, like majority of them. One other fact that I want to bring up here is that almost like 46% of the enterprises, and for us, almost like 80% of the enterprises are using open source model and or they're willing to move to open source model as quickly as the results get better. So where it started was all about being these large language model, ChatGPT as an example. But now where we are is we have huge amount of options available that could be used. And we just saw the demo of Grok being able to produce over 800 tokens per second compared to what 30 to 50 tokens that we are getting in ChatGPT. I hope it's still not writing the answer. Yeah. But I think let's focus on the adoption of AI at various places in enterprises and this is very important aspect to understand. Before the large language models became mainstream, we were solving a lot of AI problems with predictive analysis, classification, and several type of deep learning models that existed. I think after ChatGPT, there was this line drawn, and now we are solving the same set of problems with large language model or multi-model approach, right? So for example, classifying documents are now we are solving with, earlier we used to run through, like huge amount of data set, and then we will say, okay, classify whether this document look like like if this is a receipt, does it for food, does it for entertainment, does it for travel? That kind of a classification, we used to do it in, these classification model. But right now, you take the content and you ask a large language model to classify it, to extract information out of it. You are able to get the same level of results, even better in some of the use cases that we have seen. So, and if you think about it, there was huge amount of money and time invested in training these models in the past, the conventional model and predictive models that we had. But with generative AI, we are able to get to the same level of result and even better. So that's a big adoption that is happening. And the other thing is the introduction of multi-model approach that we saw with Gemini and ChatGPT, OpenAI models, the vision models, if you can call them. They have also enabled a lot of things, which we were doing with conventional model. Like earlier, we used to find objects in the image using a conventional model. Now we're using this multi-model to say, what are the objects in the image? Can you describe what it is? it's even beyond what was happening before. So I think what I'm trying to say here is that the generative AI has not only impacted, generating text, images, audio or music and videos, but also impacted the mainstream of how we were doing, these deep science before. So, and Deepak, if you can tell what are the reasons why it happened?
Sure, sure. So if we look at the slope that we just seen in our previous slide, the the evolution of these multi-models and these large language models has actually increased the pace of adoption. So how quickly these frameworks are being adopted, and you can quickly see those results rather than spending those that lot of time. So speed of execution has improved. So earlier, as we have to build all these models, train these models from ground up with a lot of data to build that base layer, and then specifically talking about the end results also. So there's huge amount of data that was required. Now, modest amount of data is just fine, Akash, when it comes to fine tuning, let's say, one of these large language models. Like you are only fine tuning that final layer, which is specifically for your use case, specifically meant for your data set. And as we see, open source, the adoption of open source is improved tremendously as compared to these proprietary models. So what that has done is that has actually reduced the cost also in order to adopt and execute these use cases quickly.
Yeah,
So
and
effectively, that's what is impacting the overall adoption of Gen AI overall, Akash.
correct. And I think this dilemma that we have lived in, that you need a good amount of data to train or to execute things, which is true, it's not going away. But I think even a modest amount of data also yield really good amount of results. I think that's a very deep insight that we have learned while implementing some of these use cases. Um, and I think one other thing to mention is that the growth of the, and this is just a chart demonstrating multi-model large language models, and the growth of these models, availability is progressing very aggressively. And you are able to see a huge amount of large language models fine-tuned for different purposes, multi-models being available. And I think in last 1.5 year, it has been more progress than that we saw in, like, let's say 10 years in the past.
Right. Like for that matter, any technology changes that we have seen, adoption as well as evolution. I'm seeing this like a tremendous change in the time frame itself, how this is changing in terms of, let's say, last 2 years, we've seen so many multi-model large language models available.
Correct. So let's jump to the agenda. I think we should walk through some of the use cases that we have built and we have been building with some of the enterprises. One of the big use case that has been applied in the sales team is being able to connect the Gen AI with the CRM data, and which impacts your revenue generation. And what we did is we put the AI to be able to read a deal details. So let's say you're using Salesforce and you have an opportunity your sales team is working on. What we did is we integrated the Gen AI with the Salesforce and a few other CRM solution, where it goes through the history of all the email that has been exchanged between the salespeople and the customer or a prospect, plus look at the meeting notes, which now are being generated by tools like Otter and Firefly, and then being able to understand the context and every detail that is available in a CRM tool. And then you are able to see a very depth, review. And I almost like the first time when I saw the results, I was like, this is almost doing the job of our, like a chief sales officer who used to look at and, like say, okay, this is the kind of, scoring we will give to this particular lead and why it will explain like why we will score it to this level. Then it will tell like a high level executive summary of who is the company, what has happened so far during the process. And then it will also try to find, as in, this AI is also trying to find the error, delays, and gaps that you might have. So, for example, it is saying here that there was a follow up and there was no response for a long time. There was a conflict scheduling a meeting, which was not a good experience. So, it was able to go through calendar invites, the email exchange, the meeting notes, and everything to say these are the issues that you have made, and then it's trying to suggest what should be the next action item that we should be doing. Like for example, here it's saying set up a full project plan meeting, and here is the email that you can send out with an agenda in it. I mean, I'm just surprised the level of depth you get. And then at the end, it's giving its more suggestion on what else we could do to win this deal, and things like that. So when we apply this, in a few organization and even in our organization, we saw like a huge, tremendous improvement in understanding, rating a deal, and being able to suggest, what are the next steps or errors and delays. So this is an excellent example of how we can leverage Gen AI with some of the existing tools. One thing to mention is that there are all these SaaS platforms do have their own out of the box Gen AI solution, which we saw. But some of our customer deployed their own because they wanted to fine tune them on their own organization style, working style, and they want to keep some of those data set very confidential of how they approach and work on these deals. What is their typical, like a cycle of working?
Right. And on the same lines, so this is like one of the department that we've touched base, which is more of sales. Maybe we can talk a little bit more around automation around HR department. So this is another use case that we've been working on from a hiring perspective. One of the processes, one of the many processes within HR department. So in this specific tool, so this is a bot wherein as a candidate, I can interact with this bot. So as a company who wants to hire candidates corresponding to specific roles, so what is happening is as a candidate, I joined, I go to this website, interacted with the bot. Bot has asked me to upload my CV. I uploaded my CV, and then these are all these different job profiles where I'm matching as my CV. So effectively, what we are able to achieve here is using just by looking at the job profile in the resume, we are able to suggest like what all job profiles you are actually matching for, and then once I upload my resume, I confirm, okay, this is where I would like to apply for. It is also sending an email mentioning all those, I would say, quick summary of my profile, that these are the things, these are the benefits you'll get out of this profile. Do you agree to that? So effectively, what we have done is we have completely reduced that initial cycle of calling a candidate, filtering out, matching their profile with some of these jobs, and confirming, getting a confirmation. So once we are done here, so let's say now we have all these candidates available with us for a given job profile. What now we are trying to do is we are trying to do a match with the profile with respect to various, I would say, attributes that are required for this job. So one of them is, let's say, soft skills. So we are trying to assess the soft skills based on a specific let's say, a specific item within the resume here that this candidate has already done some presentations, it has already done interpersonal skill courses. So based on that, we have given a score here. We have tried to match the competency here in terms of, okay, these are the competencies and these are the competencies available for job. They are getting matched. So we are giving a score here also, rating the relevant experience more from a summary of job description as well as the resume. And we're trying to give a match for this specific candidate. So that way we are able to actually reduce this overall, I would say, screening process and matching process. We've reduced that tremendously. There are multiple other, I would say, processes that can be improved within HR. But this is like one of them, Akash, more from a hiring
I
perspective.
agree. So I think there is more extension to this where we, we are implementing the summary of how the experience the user has, the candidate call logs, candidate, assessments, and everything, and then summarize it for the stakeholders to see if they would like to hire the candidate or not. So that's a lot of work being done on, HR side, and I think there are a lot of things in HR activities which are being automated with AI.
Right.
Let's jump to like understanding the Gen AI application in software engineering, and this is something that we have implemented in-house also, and we saw a very big efficiency and improvement to our software development lifecycle. So all these blue boxes that you see here are the one that we have applied AI in various places in the software engineering. For example, when a story is created, we expanded the story using the project understanding, the scope of documents which are there in the knowledge base. We look at the conference data of the entire requirement gathering, and then we automatically generated and updated the story with more detailed information. And then when the technical architect or the product owner show up, then we update the same story with more information around acceptance criteria. The technical architect is putting together an architect diagram, and then we expand on that diagram using multi-model. And then we do use human in the loop to make them better, but it gives them a big head start during the software engineering, life cycle. And of course, everybody is familiar with code generation, creation, but there are other places where we applied Gen AI.
Right. So let's say post code generation, we have committed the code. So there is this whole CI/CD pipeline that runs, and there is this cycle of testing, deployment. So let's say once we do the deployment, what happens is we have these bugs and auditors that goes in and raises those bugs. So based on those bugs, these tools are basically generating these doing the reviews of these commits, doing a lot of auto suggestion of gap analysis in terms of let's say where are these gaps coming in from, and then also suggesting how to solve them. So this is like one of the examples where what is the issue, and these are the suggestions given by the Sonar Cube itself, which is another AI tool that suggests the security vulnerabilities and where we should fix them with a code also. So that gives like I would say a huge efficiency in terms of solving these bugs, not from the quantity perspective, but from quality perspective also, Akash. So
Yeah,
yeah.
and I think the combining these tools together, like how we did with Bitbucket, SonarCube, and OpenAI, we were able to get a huge amount of efficiency in, let's say, looking at the pipeline when the code commit happened, providing reviews, automatically suggesting the PR request changes that has happened. And these things, are very easily, it can be very easily implemented, and they are low hanging in the engineering team to apply. So these are like must have that, the enterprises should apply right away.
Right. So this is one of the use case, Akash. You wanna?
Yeah. Yeah, of course. So the number one use case that the industry has adopted for is using generative AI or AI towards customer experience. And we have also implemented it with few customers. And what we have seen is a major change of how the customer experience efficiency comes out of the box once you implement this. So, for example, like what happened in the past was the customer support bots used to be very lame, and they were not context aware, if I have to say. But now with adding the knowledge base, showing the hierarchy of what user has done in the past, what have been their previous session, and the AI is able to go through that very quickly and being able to create an intent of why the customer would be asking a question that makes a huge, it's like a magical moment that happens in customer support. So like here is an example where the customer comes and say, I need to know the status of my order number 0145. Now the AI responds by saying, we understand that you have requested for a change in delivery address. We will deliver your package on the new delivery address. Your order will be delivered today, 5 p.m., and this is the address. And this is very important to understand that the user just asked, like, what's the status of my order? But the AI was able to understand the intent behind it, that there is a change in delivery address. So they want to know, that we are delivering to the right address. And in order to bring that data out, the AI has to relate it to the other systems in the organization, like, looking at, CRM or ServiceNow or Freshdesk and other tools to be able to fetch that information real time, put it together, the entire context, and then try to make an answer to this. I think these things are very, very game changer in customer experience, and we have seen that.
Right. And just based on these responses, actions based on these responses is also important, Akash. So let's say once this is being answered, we might have to update our CRM. We might have to send an email, text. So that's like more of actionable AI that we are talking here in this specific use case also. That based on responses, we are categorically take those actions. Yeah.
Yep, I agree.
So this is like one of the use cases where which is specifically meant for most of our marketing websites that are meant for selling, let's say, our products, our services. So what we are basically able to achieve in this specific scenario is generating these content dynamically based on users, let's say, location, users' preferences. So if you see here in this specific website, based on the user location, so let's say if a user is coming in on this website from New York, so you can see a different background with the Statue of Liberty, showing that, okay, this is very much localized and personalized interaction that user is seeing here. Now, not just the text or the background images, we are also able to drive the engagement based on the user context, based on what they have searched for. And we can show them the relevant product, show them relevant services that they were looking for as part of their earlier searches, as part of their earlier context. So that's another use case that is coming in from a marketing perspective. Although there are a lot of other use cases from when it comes to marketing as a department where you can do a lot of blog generation, content generation, do SEO evaluation for your web portal, your website. You can write specific blogs specific to services. So these are some of the use cases from a marketing perspective, Akash.
Correct. And let me cover one on financial sector. And this is like like a lot of demand of doing a use case on due diligence. So although the due diligence require a lot of expertise to be in place. So in some of the examples that we worked on, we created a tool which will do the research that analyst has to do online on various aspects of it. And let me see if I can show you an example of a research that AI does for us. So this report, which is generated here, is generated with the AI within like less than 3 minutes, where it, let's say we give it an input as the company name and the industry that we are dealing with. And it goes out and find like what's the age of the company, go to their website, write down some paragraph about, what the company does, look at their market size on Google, industry, and then being able to go through their reviews on various websites and being able to write the sentiment around those reviews that this company has. Then being able to also connect it with other tools like Deal Room and few others. We are able to produce the cap table and any changes that there are possible. Then you can also see the news summary that has been generated by going through the online news sites and being able to see what these companies have published or where they've been mentioned, and then summarize them. But I think then we connected the G2 and few other data sources where we were able to get the comparative analysis to see what their competition is and what they have been doing. So the AI automatically goes to the competitor website, fetch the information from the website, summarize it for the research for the analyst. But I think the biggest value come down when it summarizes the internal documents that the organization has to be able to give it to the analyst, a very much like a very good start to do the due diligence. And due diligence is something that's not only applied to financial sectors or only, it also applies to like organizations, like they run supplier due diligence or vendors due diligence, and sometimes they run it for different parties involved in proposals and things like that. So this is very asked for use case that we have seen in enterprises.
Right.
Okay. I think this could be one more use case that we can walk through today. This is a use case where we have a team of people working on a document generation. So what we built is a tool where the people and the AI is going to work together on building a proposal. So let's say, you're doing a proposal and you are able to upload a document or a brief, and then you mentioned that I want to do a proposal. Then what it does is it gives you this interface where you are able to create various sections of proposal and edit it along with the AI. So for example, you can write the executive summary and you can regenerate it if you don't like it and give a feedback to be able to improve it. But what you notice here is that when AI generates some of this stuff, it's able to bring that information relevant to the relevant sources. So for example, this information came out of the Salesforce and used GPT-4 to publish this data. So creating documents with lot of enterprise knowledge, which is available in-house and with people, is one of the big use case that has been built upon.
Right. And one of the important aspect here is, Akash, that the two different agents, let's say Agent Sam and PM Rachel, their access don't overlaps. They have their own set of data wherein they are able to solve their specific context rather than having those data shared across different agents. So data separation is another concern that is being taken care here.
Yeah, I think there is very important aspect of who sees what data, and same way the AI has to be limited, that we work on. Okay, and I mean there are a lot of use cases in that we can go through today on manufacturing industry, or we can do in legal, and I think we can also do finance. But I think with the looking at the time, I think we should talk about the best practices on how do you build such implementation in the enterprise. So, Deepak, you want to explain?
Right. So I would try to take this approach where at this point in time, there are like multiple companies who are trying to solve these use cases with different approaches. So one approach that we have talked a little bit more in detail, which is RAG and context engineering. So there are open source frameworks like LangChain, Llama Index, and then we have also built a tool called ZBrain.ai, which has gone into a lot of depth with different layers in place, all those bells and whistles that are required to do prompt engineering for data ingestion. So all that things are being available as part of this framework. Now, another set of companies, which is NVIDIA, to be very specific, they've recently launched something called NIMS. So their focus is to build these container-based services that has their own context, and you can pretty much deploy them anywhere. They basically serves the purpose of various aspects within an application when it comes to, let's say, industry standards APIs or optimizing inference engine. So these are, again, they're solving it through a different approach of microservices like architecture.
Yeah,
And yeah,
but they are not like like mainstream, like using RAG or Flare at the moment, and most of them are very limited to. I think most of the implementation that we are seeing, I would say 90% of them are about either you fine tune models and then you attach it to a context engineering tool, and then being able to get results. I just want to mention that if people want to ask some question, please do it in the Q&A section, and we will be able to take and answer those questions at the end of the slides. The third approach is about the agents that are being used. Agents are still very new approach and concept that are being used. And take a look at this tool like Open Interpreter. And although there is a lot of hype around it, but when you try to play, there is a lot of things that you can do. Like I use it for like find me. So I basically launched it on my laptop, and I said, find me a book on on Amazon about AI, and it was able to like take screenshots of my my computer and then go back to OpenAI, ask it like how do I open and solve this problem, then created some scripts behind it. I think most probably RPA scripts or Selenium script to be able to launch the browser window, go to Amazon.com, take another screenshot, go back, and then do that in a loop, and it's able to do some job on my computer with a very minimal like involvements. So agents are coming and they are able to produce a lot of actionable, action-driven, I would say, insights, and they are able to take actions on behalf of a user. And then there are some mixed approach that happened in the last few months, which was about like plugins and wrappers which were written on top of models, but we didn't see them going anywhere. They have not been used as much. But I think the RAGs and context engineering is the number one approach of how it is being driven right now. And this is like a choice that enterprises have right now on how they really leverage AI and apply it. So one places, and this is a question being asked to us a lot of time, that on one side they have Salesforce and Snowflake of the world and ServiceNow being able to do, and they provide the AI toolkit within their SaaS solution. On the other hand, you have to build a complete foundation for applying AI, in your organization. So what we have seen is, if you are applying the AI at a more holistic level, organization level, then you have to prepare for doing it what's written on the right hand side. Because what happened is, let's say you're using one of the AI tool by Snowflake or Salesforce or ServiceNow or others, and let's say you're using it and you're giving it feedback, you give it thumbs up and it gives you a right answer. You end up, as an enterprise, you end up paying for the tool, and then I've also end up training the same tool, and making it better. So on the other hand, when you have your own, let's say, an open source model, and you have connected it to your data set and solving problem, when your people give feedback on a result generated by an AI, that builds up an IP within your organization. It's the more feedback you get, it builds a compounding IP, in the organization. So it is a more cost-effective way of doing a more platform-driven, instead of doing one, using existing SaaS platform AI capability, which is very non-holistic and very high cost comparatively. One important aspect is that you also need to have these AI being implemented in the organization at a wider level, because it is here to stay. You don't want the AI implementation to be done in silos. Otherwise, you do not get the advantage that you're really looking for. For example, if you're doing a customer support, you may want to give it a visibility on the engineering pipeline, or on the development pipeline, including your order status, including your like your knowledge base, so that it can make a better decision. And not all the data is available in your SaaS platform. So a lot of organizations that we work with, they are applying it at a holistic level, and they are going with building their own foundation approach.
Right. And this is maybe like a very high level approach, I would say, but there are a lot of nuances to each of these components that we are talking here. So let's say if we talk about data pipeline. So now this is like a holistic data pipeline that you're creating for your organization. So you're bringing in data from your cloud storage, from your tools that is available, from databases that is being used across the company. You might be bringing in data which is publicly available. So you bring in all this data into this data pipeline. So again, in this data pipeline, these are like, you gather data, you clean data, you normalize data, and then you integrate this data with your platform. So data is now available to be consumed by the platform, which is more of, I would say, once prepared, it is available for your organization for future also. Parallelly, if we talk about what frameworks or models, so you can go for any of these open source models, or any of these, I would say, proprietary model like OpenAI. And most of these tools, they're also utilizing these tools in the backend. So you're pretty much not investing a lot of cost or time here. They are available for you to be utilized. If you are fine-tuning them, then you're fine-tuning them for your own future IP. So that's where you're generating your IP. Then you might need to do some integrations around your existing softwares, tools that you're using. So once this is done, you basically have an experimentation platform ready. This could be, let's say, open source frameworks like, as we mentioned, LlamaIndex or LangChain, or you could use some of these frameworks like ZBrain that can ingest all this and quickly produce results for your use cases so that you can productize and deploy them to be consumed across the organization within like very short span of time.
And this is the way the organizations are taking on applying AI and building these applications. You don't want to do it in silo. You want to apply it at a much larger place. You may want to do and run small POCs to see where you can take the advantage first. But at a high level, you have to apply it in a more holistic way. So that is the reason we build this tool here, which we call as ZBrain. The what ZBrain brings to the table is it is a low-code platform where you can, and it's model agnostic. You can like one click, you can switch between models. It's cloud agnostic. You can deploy it within your private servers or AWS, Amazon, or Google. We have built-in capability to automatically find various algorithms which will give you better result. So we do auto retrievals. We created capability around making the knowledge bases even better. So we created extended data structures, because when you build these tools, we learned that there are a lot more needed beyond just context engineering in order to being able to run a use case. Then you need feedback loops. So ZBrain comes out with where when the user gives the feedback, then a supervisor or an operator will be able to see the feedback and then being able to improve based on that feedback. We have agent framework where we have integrated fetching information from third party, doing self-reflection to be able to see if there is a more query needs to be done in order to come to a result. And then we have all the things available for MLOps, being able to deploy it, have model fallback, being able to use guardrails and do private deployment in the organization. So these are some of the capabilities for Gen AI, and this is how we actually implement most of these use cases. So I think this comes to the conclusion of this. So at a high level, we really think that there is a lot more adoption that has happened so far, and there is going to continue to be new models that will come out. But I think the models are becoming very mature. I think the application focus is increasing as we speak. So Deepak, can we take a few questions now?
Sure, Akash.
Okay, so I'm going to take the one at the bottom by Brett. It says the broader question. I'm responsible for drafting a Gen AI data strategy for a deep tech startup. When finding specific tool to use and the specific benefit to our business, I find it overwhelming as companies seem to be trying to outcompete each other every year with new functionality. Especially the large language model companies, the more I research, the more I find. I understand it's case by case, but I'm curious if you guys have a more simplified approach for this in such a rapid changing field. This is an excellent question, and I would like to answer this, Deepak. So the way we look at it is, if you look at the toolkits, and what you need is a data pipeline tool. You need tool to run through your business logic. You need tools to run your MLOps, and then you need tools to being able to choose between models. So when we also build, ZBrain, we said that enterprises cannot be locked down to one of the tool, that they have to live within its boundaries. What we said is that you have to be cloud agnostic, you have to be model agnostic. You should be able to switch between the data pipeline. So let's say let's say you're using Snowflake or Databricks. Can we consume data from Snowflakes and Databricks instead of creating Databricks and instead of creating our own storage engine? So when you're looking at these tools, you have to look at them. Can you use the components available in the tool as modular, and will you be able to switch them as the time comes by? But in the broader picture, the tools have to be cloud agnostic, model agnostic, being able to switch between the patterns that are coming out, and that's the fundamental you work with. One more thing to mention here is that a lot of maturity is happening with these models. I'll explain you how, why I say that. If you take even GPT 3.5 and you put together a good reflection, self-reflection around it, you create a little bit of an agentic framework around it, and you try to solve any problem, and I'm talking about GPT 3.5, while we are living with GPT 4 and Llama 3, you are able to still get an accuracy level of 95%. So what is happening is the models are becoming less and less they don't require that much of attention anymore that it used to be. You rather have to have attention on your toolkit that you use during this process. So that's very, very critical.
Yes, and it's also important to basically should be able to identify where to invest. Are we trying to invest in these tools versus are we trying to solve these use cases and try to go to market quickly? And you can always bring in these tools down the line also if that's not the focus here. Just to add to that, Akash.
Correct. I have one more question, Deepak, from Sim. He says that there is a surge of shifting focus on agents for automation of tasks and improve the usage of the large language model, which were never possible before. This is also compounded by the upcoming GPT-5 and their focus on incorporating agents into LLM. Llama 3 release seems to be more efficient and faster than the previous implementation. Agent can improve Llama 3 capability even further. What do you think we can expect in the near future, considering this relative shift is focus of agent in terms of how the future of agents looks like? Let me try to answer this, Deepak, and please add to it.
Sure.
So, Sim, what we believe the RAG and Flare-like framework are more top-down approach. And I'll tell you, like, you need both. You need top-down and you also need bottom-up. If you look at agents, they are more bottom-up approach. So for example, like we were thinking about it that, we hosted these Copilot for sales in Salesforce and, HubSpot and Pipedrive. But can we rather create a plugin in Google Chrome while the user is already logged in and they're looking at their opportunities and the page has all the information available? Can we use the model to directly go through and parse the data in the browser and being able to come up with the same conclusion that we are trying to come from top down? Of course, it is possible. Can it be done? Yes. So if you look at agents, they are more from bottom up. They will not have access to the like a top down depth of what you may need from RAG and context engineering tools like ZBrain or LangChain and Llama Index. So these both are very different set of toolkit. I believe both are here to stay, and they have very different problems that we will solve using RAG and using agents. So agents will be more action driven versus RAG will be more context and more insightful driven ability that they will produce. That's our thought. Deepak, you want to add anything to this?
Right. Maybe I can answer it with an example. So let's say from a agent perspective, let's say, I'm monitoring all these tools, which gives me dashboards, which gives me a lot of these errors or everything is fine or not status. So what I do is I continuously look at these dashboards. So rather than as a human, what we can do is we can build an agent that continuously look at these dashboards, and the moment it sees an error, the moment it sees, let's say, a status or a service going down, it generates an action, and that's what a human will do. That's more of an action-driven approach. Now, from bottom up, which is I would say which is more context driven, where a lot of data is available, a lot of context is required in order to answer certain questions. Like we take an example of customer support bot. So that requires context, that requires all that history to be put in before we answer that specific questions, Akash.
Correct. Let's take more. How can enterprise measure the return on investment and quantify the business impact of their AI initiative? So this is like, mostly the agencies enterprises that we work with, they are looking at their how much revenue is being generated. They are looking at more tangible return. Is there a saving that has happened with their implementation? Is there an accuracy gain, or their NPS score has a customer satisfaction score has got better? So those are the things the enterprises are looking at, and some of them are actually not even looking at them. To be honest, they believe that it's helping, and they just moving forward with the belief right now.
And that's where this quick initial use cases to be solved and see them in action rather than building these big platforms and then down the line 1 year you'll see what is the impact on that.
Yeah, and there is another question, Deepak, from Brett. He says that based on AI courses I've taken before, many have mentioned selecting a use case and starting a project with the first before proceeding with the comprehensive strategy for the business. What is your personal opinion on this sequence? Are there pros and cons? I think if I go back, like a year back, we were working with enterprises, we're doing POCs and MVPs. That stage for most of the organizations that we are working with is over for them. They have already seen the value. They don't want to be left behind. They want to apply AI now, and they want to apply it everywhere. A lot of CIOs that we have spoken to are looking at it, doing it. They believe it is going to add the value. POCs and MVPs you were doing to, just to prove that it will work for you or not. But most of the AI use cases that, that industry, and it's available online, they are already working. The organization has adopted, and it's yielding results. So it's rather to take a more holistic approach. You should do POCs and MVPs if it takes less than a week and you can get to a result. That's how I will personally take it, Deepak. But I think if you are working for an organization and you want to apply AI, then you have to go, like a more holistic. It's no time to waste anymore. This is something you do now.
Right.
Okay, let's take like a couple of more questions here. What are typical challenges faced by enterprises when implementing AI solution, and how can they be addressed? Deepak?
Mostly the biggest challenge is, I would say, from a perspective of data engineering. That's where most of the time also goes in. That's what I believe. So identifying data and taking it to next level, which can be used for solving a specific use case, is what I would see as one of the biggest challenge right now with enterprises. I don't see any other challenge because a lot of these models, frameworks, they are available. So data is one of the biggest challenge right now.
Absolutely. And I think the other challenge is there is this, you need the support at the horizontal level, and then you also need support at the vertical level.
Right.
When you're adopting models and these frameworks, and it is the skills to actually understand how to do this is very limited. So that's another challenge that we have seen. The organizations have to retain the talent. I know that, I think either I was hearing in a meeting or like maybe on a video, he was saying that the guy who was working for like a big four company in San Francisco is now being offered like 3 times more salary, close to $1 million in like a new startup, and this is becoming very common. So how do you really get such talent to be available? Let's take like one more, I think here. There are 2 more questions actually. One by anonymous attendee who says, impressive capability, want to learn on the sales and adoption number of these AI tools. I think companies who choose to profitably scale these capability will win good. We 100% believe in this. We believe that, as you know, from historically, when the internet boom happened, the people who made money were like the companies like Facebook and like Instagram and YouTube. So whoever, like these are the companies who build applications, and the users were playing more role on it. And so the application industries actually take over everything else under it. So if you go back to our the chart, everything in the bottom layers like hardware, the services, the most of the money is made in the application. If you look at any past, like even mobile apps and things like that. So I would say that the companies who choose to do this, you're right, it will win good on these things. There's one more question, Deepak, from Brett. Are there particular use cases you would recommend focusing on first as a startup? Are some more beneficial in terms of early stage operation and growth? Let me take a stab at this. So basically, if you're a startup and you didn't mention what type of a startup you are, I believe like the early use cases are around, do you want to do, you look at your problem set. Is it about bringing revenue generation? Is it about lead generation? Is it about bringing more efficiency in your operation? So, like customer support is one thing. If you have a B2C focus, then customer support is first thing you do. If you are more B2B, I would say the CRM tools are, like low hanging, and you should do that. If you're an engineering startup, then go for applying engineering like what we showed today, across places, and that will be a good start. So I don't know what exactly you are doing, so I'll not be able to answer in depth. Okay, I think you have taken like almost all of them. This is great. I think, Deepak, we had a good time, and I want to thanks everyone for attending this. Thank you very much for being here. We'll look forward to your feedback and review, and we will share these videos will be available online on our YouTube channel. So we will be sharing the link with the attendees.